today we're going to be talking about a few different things. We're going to be really talking about the challenges that you faced with PIT, the tools that we have to solve some of those challenges, and the future, how we can transition your PIT data to year round outreach. When I say we are going to be talking about that, I'm primarily going to be doing the talking. My name is Tina Iman. I am a project manager here at Bitfocus and am excited to talk about the PIT count and the solutions we've come up with. So let's dive in with the challenge. What are you facing each year when it comes to the pit? I know you just wrapped it up, so you should have good answers. Sean, if you can go ahead and launch the poll, we want to know what is the hardest part of the pit count for you? Is it managing all the volunteers? Hopefully, you got a lot. Is it collecting that shelter data from agencies who aren't using HMIS? Maybe you're still trying to print out surveys, and that's always a challenge. Or it could be knowing where to find these people. If you have a large geographic area, that's a huge challenge. Could be putting together all of that data, or maybe HUD is making it hard for you and you just have a hard time really preparing that report to submit. See some answers coming in. We've got a good number of participants answering. We'll give it a few more seconds though. And it looks like putting the data together is where folks are struggling the most. Oh, I am sad and happy to hear that. Sad because that is such a struggle, but happy because we have a solution for that. All right. Actually have a solution for pretty much everything that we had up there. Well, I'm not sure if you saw those results. A little bit iffy about the sharing there. So one more time. All right. When it comes to solutions, we actually have integrated solutions. Essentially, we've got a combination where Survey 123 offers part of the solutions, essentially handling the frontline data collection and volunteer management. And Bitfocus, through Clarity, it serves as a central hub for data consolidation and HUD compliant reporting. When we put these two together, we're confident that we can use these integrated tools to show you a better way to pit. All right, so let's take a closer look at these tools. We're going to kind of follow the pit journey as we discuss each of the tools that we have to address these issues. So that's going to start with preparing our volunteer workforce, then gathering the shelter data, preparing those surveys, then going out to conduct the count, getting the data all put together, and then the final thing that you all just did, submitting the report to HUD. So we're going to start with preparing the volunteer workforce because we know that the foundation of a successful PIT really is your volunteer force. So we're going to approach volunteer management through four distinct phases. And that's collect, control, assign, and track. All of this is possible using Survey 123. So first, collect. We need to get some volunteers. We need to get them to sign up. We need to get information about them. Survey 123 offers a volunteer tool, a volunteer application that's pre-built. So you just have this application, send the link out, publish that link wherever you generally would, and folks click on it and they can answer all of the general application questions that you can think of. What's your name? What shift are you wanting to volunteer for? Where can you volunteer? Do you have your own device? But as with anything, each community is different. So it's not just a static, this is what you get. It is a customizable application. So you can change it up to get the information that your community needs to support your volunteer management. Not only are you able to get all of this information, you're able to use this information and other information that your community deems necessary to control when these volunteers actually get access to the survey. We don't necessarily want folks to have access to the survey before they're trained on how to do it, before they've signed a waiver, things like that. So you can use the volunteer manager tool in Survey 123 to decide when folks get that. Next, we're going to have the opportunity to assign our volunteers where they're needed. So in Survey 123, you'll have this dashboard you've already identified. Hey, these are the different areas we need to cover. This is how many volunteers we really need to make sure we have adequate coverage to do our surveys. And you can take all of your volunteer information and match it up to those needs. So you match what you have to your needs and to assign those volunteers to those areas. And then, of course, we know safety is of the utmost importance, and we want to be able to track what our volunteers are doing. So we can manage our volunteers and see who has signed in, what shift they're covering. Are they still here? Have they gone out to do their surveys? Have they come back? So, Survey 123 offers this great suite of volunteer management tools. All right, let's jump back to our journey. And we're now going to talk about gathering that shelter data. And a lot of you, about 30% of you, said this was a challenge. So we're going to move from the people in the field to data from our agencies. And we're specifically talking about those that are not traditional HMIS users, but we still need their shelter data for the night of the count. What we recommend is using clarity. Really, what we will do is say start with the organizations that you know and start contacting them. But anyone can do that, right? You can say, well, of course, I'm going to start with the people that we know. Sam has it all in his notebook. Okay, well, what if Sam forgot his notebook? Well, that's okay. We added it to a tracker in, a spreadsheet. Well, does anyone still have access to that spreadsheet? Did they leave last year? Has anyone been maintaining it? Do you know which folder it's in your shared drive? If you use Clarity as your single source of information, you alleviate all of that. And we have a great tool for that. Well, we have a great system for that. You can set up an agency called an informational agency in Clarity, and it's very similar to any other agency you would set up. But because it's only collecting information about that agency and not allowing you to like manage programs or serve any clients, it doesn't count against your agency licenses. So basically, you can have 100 different agencies that are informational agencies, and it's not going to cost you anything. With these informational agencies, the information you're going to collect is what you need to maintain contact with them. So you can have their agency name and then a site name. Maybe they have a few different shelters. You'll also have who to contact at that agency, how to contact them with their phone number. And as with any good data management, you have an information date in there. We need to know how fresh this is. Is this still good information or is this someone that I need to update? So, all of this just provides that single source of truth and really a foundation for contacting folks year over year. Okay. Next is preparing the surveys, trying to jump ahead. Glad I have this journey map here. I am really hopeful that nobody is using paper surveys just because they are such a challenge. But we're going to look at Esri's Survey 123. They do have a pre-built survey, and it's great because it's already HUD ready. So all of the questions that HUD requires you to ask and all that data you're required to collect is already in there. But again, this too is customizable. So if your community has specific questions that you want to add and ask during the survey, you're able to do that. And because we know folks are out in the field and they're going to be using handheld devices, it is designed to be mobile first. So it's really easy to zoom in, zoom out, click things. And on top of that, it's really great. It handles complex skip logic. So folks that are out there for the first time aren't having to guess, oh, this person answered this. Do I need to ask the next question? It's going to skip to the next question that they have to ask, taking out all that complexity. And critically, it does work offline if volunteers lose cell service out in various areas. And finally, it does capture GPS coordinates for those unsheltered locations. So it's really easy to see where folks are when we pull this data later. Okay. So we've got those surveys, but we need to go ahead and conduct that count and know where to find people to do the survey. If you're already using Clarity Outreach, you have got a leg up because we can use the outreach map to identify current known locations. So, hey, we had our outreach teams out last week. We already know where a bunch of people are, so we know which areas we need to cover. But we know nobody stays static, so we can also use the same outreach map to find historical locations. In the outreach module, there's actually a filter where you can set this for, let's say, the last unsheltered point in time count you did, where were individuals staying? And finally, you can identify likely areas where people may be, even if they're not mapped already, known locations. And that can be through a combination of what you've seen in those historical hotspots, what's happening today, trends like areas that are close to various resources. In my community, we always recommend looking around the Walmarts because they're open for long hours. They have access to water and resources. And we always say check for the areas that have kind of a wooded area and how to get to them. And using Clarity's map, we have a view that shows kind of the terrain a little bit to make it easier to know where to look more specifically. All right. Next thing is consolidating all of that data. This was the other big thing that folks said that they were struggling with. And this is actually one of the places that I really was hoping to focus. So the sums come up, the count's complete, we put it all together. Survey 123 actually doesn't even wait till the count's complete. As you're completing the account, as you are completing the count, the results are trickling into a dashboard so you can see those updates as they happen. But what's really great with Survey 123 is that they'll take all of that information and transform the data into a file that you can then upload into Clarity. So now you have your sheltered information and your unsheltered information both in Clarity. I think this is the coolest part, and I'm excited to show you what it looks like to actually upload that. Let's get started with our first demo. To access this, you're going to start in Clarity's new user interface. So it's this purple screen, and you're going to come over to the unsheltered pit section. From there, I already have some files in here because we've done a few test runs, but we're going to click add. And from here, we'll select the COC year, the COC and year for this import. It's only 2026 so far because we just got started. Then you can either use the choose a file or drag and drop to add your file. Once your file's in there, then you can click Save and Next. And the next step is going to be mapping the fields. You may not want to see every single field, so you can use this options to just show the skip columns. And now we can see all the fields that were skipped because there wasn't a match in Clarity. And then you can use this drop down to select the field that it should be mapped to. But I also want to point out some things are going to be fine to skip. Like some things are just labels and you don't need to bring them in, and that's okay. But we also want to map our duplicates. So if we have type of shelter 2 times, there's 2 different ways that that gets asked. So you'll want to map that appropriately and then validate. Remember I said it's fine to skip fields? If you have, it's just going to give you this notice that says, hey, there are some skip fields. So you're just going to say, yep, that's what I meant to do. Once you've done that, you'll get this little summary of counts, right? How many households were surveyed? How many rows of data essentially were being brought in there? You want to review these counts to make sure it aligns with what you expected to see, because that's the first indication if it's way off that there was an error. But assuming that it all looks good, you can move on to validation errors. And while it says errors, again, this doesn't mean that you have to stop everything. Something went wrong. It could just mean that the data that was brought in is something that isn't an accepted field. So if someone didn't answer the question for their unhoused origin, like if that was left blank, that's okay. We can still import that data. Once we've done that, this new row will populate in our counts, and we can see a little bit of information about it, like the file name and size and who did it. But the status is going to be set to analyze because it does take a while for this information to cook. When it is cooked, we're going to view that. So let's take a look here. Our file is now listed as imported as the status, which means it's cooked and ready. So we can open that up. And from here, we can see all of the data that was imported. Not all of it. You can adjust this to see what's there, but we can see the rows of data. Right now, it's set to household. So these responses are households, but we can swap it to individuals. We can toggle between the two. And when I do that, now each of these rows represents an individual instead of a household. All right, I'm going to jump back into our slides and talk about submitting the report to HUD. Oh, excuse me, I jumped ahead a little bit there. So Clarity actually has a report that you can run. to make it easy to submit your numbers in HDX. That report is the HUD 230AD report, and it prepares the data to look almost exactly like you're going to see it in HDX. So here in outlined in purple is a screenshot of HDX. And you can see in this one, they're asking for the counts for adults, households with adults and children. And they want the total number of households that are sheltered, in emergency shelter, or transitional shelter, the total unsheltered, and then that overall total. You can see here in the clarity report, again, it's going to match households with at least one adult and one child. Here's the total: sheltered in emergency shelter, sheltered in transitional housing, our unsheltered total, and our combined total. Many of you may have run reports already, but I do want to highlight a few things in running this one. So we're going to go through a demo. We're going to start in reports, navigate to our administrator reports, the HUD 230AD shelter count pit, set the appropriate parameters for your community, and then make sure you enter the correct pit dates for the year that you're associating this report with. And very vital for unsheltered pit counts, you want to select yes, because this is what's going to pull in that data that we just uploaded. Select your output. I'm selecting web page for today. Once that's ready, we'll just pull it from the queue and open that up. And just like I showed you in the screenshots, this looks very similar to what you're going to see in HDX and how it's set up. So it's really, really easy to transfer or transcribe that data. All right. I'm going to take a sip of water before we jump into the future. So while the pit count is a once a year event, the real value of all of our data is realized when we transition that into year round outreach. When we're using all of this year round, it gives us a centralized spot for all of our information. And with that centralization of data, you really are supporting better reporting and analysis. In addition to that, these real-time field updates are vital to supporting efficient outreach across the community so you're not overlapping efforts. And finally, all of this information maintained year round is really going to simplify doing the pit next year. So that whole pit cycle. When I talk about the cycle, I'm talking about starting with the unsheltered pit, continuing to map everything onto that outreach module, and then continuing that outreach. So we're going to start with the unsheltered pit. For some of you, you may be starting from scratch because you've never used the outreach module. That's fine. That's okay. When you use this integrated tool of updating your pit count data into Clarity, it's going to give you a baseline that helps you identify potential encampments to put on your map, which is going to in turn help you plan your outreach. I do want to note if you're already using outreach, that's great too. This pit survey data can just be layered into your current information and used to update your maps. Now, whether you have never used outreach or you're just looking to revamp your outreach in your community, we do have an outreach toolkit that can help you do that. Right here, you're just seeing a screenshot of the checklist, but our toolkit is actually way more robust than just a checklist. It really is going to provide so much guidance in how you create a coordinated effort and a coordinated outreach plan in your community. So definitely check that out. Today, though, we're going to focus on the more immediate things of actually accessing that pit data in the outreach module to start. So let's take a look at it. Let's get big. All right. So we're going to start in the outreach module. And you can see here these blue kind of shapes. These represent encampments. So if you already have stuff populated on your outreach map because you've been using it, you'll see it. If you have never used it, you won't see anything like that. To access the pit survey information, we're going to go to this filter and make sure we select unsheltered pit count. So make sure that's on, apply it, and now we'll be able to see that. I have to shift a little bit to where that information is. and we collected it for the area around Naperville. So all of these circles with numbers represent clusters of areas where unsheltered counts were completed. So this one had 10. If I wanted to see details about it, I can click into it and I can see how many surveys were completed in that area. More details can be pulled out of this, but I just wanted to show you what this looks like. Now, if you have gone into this outreach map and you're not seeing these blue circles and at all, and you've looked all around and you just don't see anything, it could be that you missed a step when we were importing. So you can go back to that unsheltered pit count and go to your counts, find that file you uploaded and click the edit button. We'll edit one more time. And you want to make sure this available as a map layer is toggled on. Once that's toggled on, when you go back into the map, you will be able to see all of that. I promise it'll be there this time. And if it's not, just blame it on me. All right. Now I'm going to talk about mapping with the module. So you saw that the shelter information is in there, but those encampments that I showed you might not be in there. So we still need to build all of this out. And when I say build it out, you want to create those encampments so that they're reflected on the map. And you want to make sure that the individuals are actually associated with those encampments or other locations on the map. When we upload those survey data, we're not updating any client data. So uploading the surveys doesn't create a client profile in Clarity or anything like that. We still need to do that and get those individuals actually on the map. So let's take a look at how to do that. Get big, get started. We're already in the outreach module and we're going to start with creating an encampment. To do that, you just go to the bottom right of the screen and you click this little placard to add an encampment. From there, you'll fill in the encampment information and then we'll draw the encampment. So we'll enter in all of the details. Once that's there, we'll click add a new boundary. We're going to use this polygon tool to draw the outline of the encampment. So you just kind of click around, make the shape, and there's your encampment. Confirm that that's what it's supposed to look like, and then you can save. And now you can see the encampment boundaries are on the map, and there's a placard with a number in it. So this is an encampment, and right now there are 0 people in the encampment. Building it out really is that easy. Now to add people. All right, so we're going to select the encampment that we're working in. We want to add someone to that encampment. So we'll click add a person. Then we'll search for that person. Again, the survey upload didn't create any profiles, so you'll still need to create those if those people aren't in there. But if they're already in Clarity, you just search for them. Then you'll select the person that you want to add to your encampment. It can be more than one. Confirm that number, and then confirm that that's what you want to do. And now that client is associated as being in this encampment. So there's a number 1 on the placard. 1 person in the encampment. Okay, so the point in time is one day, getting the encampment on the map and then getting a person on the map isn't the end. There's still things that are happening. Every day there are changes. So we need to continue our outreach and continue our updates. It means we need to maintain the map. When I say maintain the one first, there could be changes to the encampment itself, right? So you want to update that regularly. Perhaps over time, the encampment is growing and the boundaries change. You can go in and edit those boundaries to change the shape and size of the encampment. Or maybe it's the opposite is happening and it's retracting, not just in size, but we're seeing fewer and fewer people at that encampment each time we visit till eventually there's none. At that point, it may be time to close the encampment. So you can mark it for pending closure until whatever community for, finally deactivating the encampment has been met. In addition to the encampment itself, folks are moving about, so we can move our clients around. I showed you how to add one client just to a single encampment, but we can move folks to other locations on the map and between encampments. And finally, we want to kind of track what's going on with the encampments themselves. And the way we do that is using alerts and notes. Um, Notes are really for basic things that are happening. They're not anything urgent. They're just wanting to keep people informed of what's happening with the encampment. And these are not client notes. It's just about the encampment. So perhaps I'm an outreach on an outreach team, and we went out and delivered 3 cases of water. I can put that as a note associated with that encampment, so now another outreach team who may be going out to deliver water can see, "Oh, well, this team just did it, so we can skip that encampment and focus our efforts elsewhere." So these notes can support kind of efficient outreach efforts. We also have alerts, which are more urgent things that folks want to know. Perhaps there was an aggressive dog off leash the last time you went out to that encampment. You want folks to know that before they go out there so that they can take precautions and be prepared. I'm going to show you how to do all of that in Clarity. We're going to start with the encampment changes. So, again, we're going to select the encampment we want to work with, open the encampment profile, make any necessary updates, although maybe you just want to regularly confirm the status of something, so there could be no updates. That's okay. You can just update the status date to say everything stayed the same, but whether there's changes or not, whenever you do that review, update the status date and then click Save. That easy. You also have the option to edit the boundaries when you're in there. But I want to talk about moving clients as well. So we can see here we have one person in the public library area encampment and one person in the central encampment. I want to move somebody. So I'm going to select the encampment where the client is currently located. I'll come over here to the Move Persons tool. I'm going to filter this for the status of the encampment to which the person is being moved. So I've set it to assigned, and then I can type in what I'm looking for or just pick from the drop down list of encampments. So this is where I want him to go. Toggle that on. Could be moving more than one person at a time and confirm that choice. Then I'll hit done. And now there's 0 people in the central encampment and 2 people, including Doug, over here in the library encampment. Next, we'll look at notes and alerts. So again, select the encampment we're working with. I'll go to this bell icon to open my notes and alerts. And here I can add a new note or alert. So this defaults to opening as a note. I'll enter the title and any information that I want to share. And I'll do the same steps for creating an alert, but now I'll use this drop down to select alert instead of note. Fill in the information again with kind of a punchy, quick title so folks know what they're getting into, and then save that. When I create an alert, I'll get a notification generated on the map so I can see, hey, there's a new alert. And again, you can review the details of them by going into that encampment, clicking the bell, and seeing the notes and alerts. Now we have to repeat the cycle. I think we just said a lot, but you don't get to stop. You have to keep doing this. So if you do keep doing this, it's going to really benefit you year over year. When January 2027 rolls around, you won't be starting from scratch. You are going to have the data that you need to really inform your pit planning, right? You're going to know, again, you're going to have a lot more information about where folks are. So it's going to help you better allocate your volunteers. You're going to be able to see what supplies are needed because you've had folks going out there and documenting things about what they've delivered, what's still needed. And you're going to know what you don't know, which is going to help you customize your survey questions so you can get that information to support your ongoing efforts. All right, as we wrap up, I just want you to remember that the point in time count really shouldn't be an annual scramble. By using Clarity and Survey 123, you're building an integrated infrastructure that makes your next pick count, hopefully, the most efficient one yet. And with that, I think we can review if there's any questions that are unanswered.
We've got a couple up here, Tina. So, I'll give you, if you want to go over to the Q&A and check any out to start. Ashley's in the background answering a lot of the questions. I think your final point is really a strong point to be made is that, don't let it be a scramble in the end. And what I appreciate about the group that's on here today is that you're not making a scramble. You're just about as early as you could possibly be for starting to think about next year's pit. So with that short stalling, have you had any questions over here, Tina, that you want to address?
I know a couple of these Ashley can answer, I think. But the first question that I see is if we are oh, no, it just disappeared. Ashley answered it. It was about pre-built surveys and clarity, and we don't have the pre-built surveys and clarity. Again, this is an integrated solution, so Survey 123 integrating and using their tools is a great way to address this. Next question, could we use the DIT to import clients into encampments on the outreach map? I don't believe that's a functionality that we have right now, but I'm not 100% certain. So I am going to let someone else address that, hopefully. And if we don't get the answer during the webinar, we will get it eventually. All right. The next question is about the question about extrapolation is still there. Okay. So if we import the unsheltered data into Clarity, does it handle the extrapolation? And it doesn't at this time. We're hopeful to build that out in the future. But again, you have a great baseline, and using the HUD extrapolation tool is a great way. It's just going to kind of be easy to populate that extrapolation tool as well.
The next one here, yeah, the copy of the webinar, it will be in, if you are familiar with learn.bitfocus.com, it will be on that website. Let me see if I can't very quickly drop that in the chat. Otherwise, we do have plans to send out an email with this recording and then all the resources as well. We have your email since you signed up for this webinar.
Yes. Do you know if we essentially could we import or map custom survey data that we collect? The answer is yes. You do have to build out those custom fields in Clarity. It is the field is I think pit custom is the field type, but if you build that out in Clarity, then yes, you can import and map custom survey questions. Question, can you export the data from Survey 123 and not upload it into HMIS Clarity? Yes, no one's requiring you to upload this information in here, but there are a lot of benefits to importing it, uploading it into Clarity, and using it to run that report.
I was just going to add on to what Tina said for that latest question that came through about exporting the data from Survey 123 and not uploading it into HMIS. Um, Part of that point in time count solution package is like also like a HUD compliant export. So it can actually drop out your survey details in um, the HDX table shelf format as well. It just won't have any of your HMIS data associated with it. It'll be that kind of separate package with just the Survey 123 data.
As long as I got you here, Ashley, I was quick off the line for saying that we answered one of the questions live. Do you have an answer for, could we use the DIT to import clients into encampments on the outreach map?
I was actually on the side consulting our data integration team about that. Let me review the response I got from them. I don't believe you can, because you can get the imported data into like a particular program, but I don't think there's enough information to actually get it onto the map. But we can follow up and discuss that more in more detail, Melissa, if you'd like.
We've got one more come through that says, how does the Survey 123 support deduplication since name is not collected, right?
I'm going to leave this one for Ashley as well. She's more familiar with those intimate details of how Survey 123 works.
I'll answer live because I'm typing slower than I'm talking for some of these. It's Deduplication is one of the biggest challenges because it is always going to come back to what what data you collected to be able to deduplicate that. Um, if you're using the standard survey, the information available for deduplication is pretty minimal. Um, but there is, I believe, part of that solution tool that allows you to kind of scan through and look at things and basically say like, I don't want to count this survey because it's a duplicate. But it all comes back to the data that you collect. Some communities collect more like full names so that they can do better deduplication. So it's just that balance between collecting what you need and being able to get an accurate count.
Would the separate data table be run separately, like I'm doing now with the second COC, or does it combine with the existing shelter programs? So basically, do I need to do math and deduplicate between the two?
So our the point in time count report in Clarity will basically look at those two data sets as separate data sets, but it will pull into one report. So you'll start to see sheltered and unsheltered columns in that single report. Um, because there's not any matching with client records at this time, that's something we're going to build in the next phase of the tool. It There won't be deduplication happening between those two data sets, but they can both be pulled into one single report. So if you are pulling data for one COC, and that's the COC that you selected when you imported your unsheltered data from Survey 123, then you'll be able to just run one single report, but those are just two separate data sets that aren't connected at this time. It'll pull all your unsheltered count from that imported data and all of your sheltered count from your HMIS program-based data.
I almost said we made it to the end, but we've got one more come through here. I'll read it off. Could the PIT upload work with other companies, for example, SimTech? If it isn't directly configured, could we download their format and edit the file as needed, naming conventions, etc., to make it compatible?
The tool is specifically designed to work with the Survey 123 ArcGIS point in time solution. Um, I would say it's maybe possible, but I don't know that it would be a very practical route to go, only because those files with the survey level data are pretty specific, and there's a lot of like calculations that happen before the file is exported. So like you'll notice, Wendell, I shared that you can download kind of the file specs, and you can see a lot of those fields are like calculated within the file. So I think it would be really tricky to like edit a file manually to reflect that format. Um, but I suppose it would technically be possible. I think it would just be challenging to a point that it might just make you want to switch to Survey 123 the next year. Which is and their tool, if you have the tools that you need, like if you have ArcGIS Online, Hub Premium, and Survey 123, the solution itself is free to download.
We've got, I believe, and I went a little rogue and did it myself. So if you do see the resources and you think, well, this doesn't help at all, then you can absolutely blame me for that. I do have a couple of resources pinned on the resources portion of your Zoom window. I'll also, again, this is going to make everybody nervous as I drop this, and our help center has a little bit of information on uh, Survey 123 and point in time counts. So drop that into the link there if you'd like a little bit more information in the meantime. With that, Tina, Ashley, thank you very much. I think we made it to the end of our marathon of questions, which I really do appreciate. It's webinars can be very I won't say boring when the questions don't come in, but as a presenter, you start to think, oh, do people care? Are we talking about something that is important? So appreciate you helping us out by making it more of a conversation, and hopefully you got your questions answered as well. If you have any questions that do pop up, get in contact with your Bitfocus contact, whether that is a BFF, your co-ad. If you are not a Bitfocus customer, then get in touch with our sales team. You can go to bitfocus.com to find somebody to talk to. And we hope to be in touch with you more about it soon. And it looks like Ashley dropping in probably more relevant resources into the chat if you'd like to grab that before we sign off for the day. Again, look for the recording to come through by your email. Otherwise, learn.bitfocus.com. Thanks for joining. Enjoy the rest of your week.